So welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today I have Yuval Brisker from TOA Technologies. Hi Yuval, how you doing?
How's it going, Adrian?
I'm very well, sir, very well. So for the benefit of our listeners and readers, can you tell us a bit about you and tell us a bit about the work that you do?
Well, I'm the CEO and co-founder of TOA Technologies. TOA stands for Time of Arrival. Our company provides the most advanced cloud-based enterprise software solution for managing mobile employees, meaning managing people who do service, delivery, installations, and all sorts of maintenance activities in the field. People like your cable or your satellite technicians or your telephone technicians, your utility people, your delivery people for sofas and appliances and groceries, people who maintain infrastructure, people who deliver things to other businesses who maintain copiers and offices and stuff like that. So anybody who does work in the field that's focused on maintenance or service or delivery, our system helps companies manage those people much more effectively. And of course, there's people all around the world that millions of people all around the world who do this kind of mobile service, and we see them at our homes and our offices, and at our place of business, etc. I myself have been the CEO of TOA from the founding. I was previously an architect. I studied architecture both in Israel, where I was born, and in the United States, where I finished my education and worked as an architect for about 5 years. Luckily for me, right at the beginning of my career as an architect, I was put into the CAD department, into the computer aided design department of the company that I was working for. That was a global provider of architectural services with 18 offices around the world. And I had the great, privilege to, be kind of on the ground floor of the adoption of technology into that company. And through that, I got acquainted with software and software development, because that company that I worked for, the company was called HOK Architects, based in St. Louis. They actually had their own software development department, and I became very involved in the development of the solution that they were providing for their architects for doing, drafting and so on and so forth. Through that, I got acquainted with software design and software in general, and I really, really loved it. And I thought to myself, actually, the real creative, the real intensely creative and interesting stuff is not happening in architecture these days, but actually happening in software and in technology. And then I really, thought about it deeply, and I made the switch about 5 years into my career into the software world. So I've been in software for about 15 years. And as I said, 10 of those with this company that I founded in 2003.
Fantastic. Now, that's interestingly enough. Architecture is just, I guess, it's a blend of design and sort of engineering. So I guess it's quite you must bring a fascinating skill set to software design, given that you've come from a architecture which sort of wrestles with form and function, but also has the underpinnings of good kind of engineering kind of in it as well.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, really. I think what drew me to architecture at the time, when I was actually, in my teenage years, was the idea that you could do something creative and something very practical at the same time. I wasn't really drawn to the idea of doing sort of, plastic arts or just pure art, like painting or sculpture. And so, I definitely, and myself, I was really kind of, my inclination was really a balance between the left and the right brain, and I have that very strong. It's something that I'm both attracted to the idea of something very numbers based and engineering, sort of rooted in engineering, and at the same time I have a very strong creative side. So that kind of balance between left and right brain was really what brought me to architecture. And when I was in architecture, I realized that that though there was a lot of creative architects around, most architects were really very functional and not very creative. I actually ended up, my first year is kind of designing bathrooms. I didn't think that was very creative.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as I was exposed to the software development department for this company, for HOK, And I found that part to be intensely creative. And it was just as kind of the internet was rising, and Yahoo went public, and Netscape became the sort of the first browser. And I realized the real, true, intense, creative undertaking today in this world, and that kind of mix of practical and creative was happening on the technology, on the software side. Incidentally, the software firm that I work, the architectural firm that I worked for that had this software, department, ended up selling that software department to AutoCAD, and our solution,
Okay.
the solution that I worked on with them, became the basis for what became AutoCAD 2000, and really the next generation of AutoCAD. So I was really kind of privileged and glad to have been at the forefront of something very unique, and then from there it was an easy transition into the sort of hardcore, software world that I'm in right now, and have been for the last 15 years.
So before we, this is a bit of an aside, but before we dive into sort of TOA technologies, see that you also mentioned it just then about cinema and stuff. So I see from your bio on the website that you're undertaking an MA in film studies. I just wanted to know how that's going.
Going real slow because most of my focus is on TOA. But again, it was kind of an extension of the sort of my view on life in general, but in this particular case, kind of on the professional development of my own professional development, was that even if you're focused on one thing, it's always I think it always enriches your abilities and your experience and the things that you have to offer both yourself and the world, and in my case to my company, by really enriching it with other disciplines and other forms of thinking. Because for me, I actually didn't study cinema production. I studied cinema studies, which was at really the premier department for cinema studies in the world, which was at NYU. And I took it on because I felt like it was going to develop my thinking and my ability to be analytical in a specific and certain kind of way. So yeah, I've gotten through almost 99% of the coursework, and I'm down to one last paper, which has been hanging in the balance for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm afraid to say. But
well, the best.
Go ahead.
Best of luck with that. I hope you can get a chance to finish it. Hopefully over Christmas and New Year.
Right. All I need is 2 good, solid weeks of quiet, which since the TOA has been founded, has not really happened. But yeah, that's really all that's left, and I'll have something I think quite significant. And as you know, cinema studies is more of a discipline of criticism and analysis and history and theory, and I think it's really informed the way that I look at both our business and different aspects of our creative side to our business. Starting with our solution and all the way through almost everything that we do here. I try to put a real strong both analytical approach as well as a creative approach, which really kind of extrapolates everything that we've been talking about that sort of right brain, left brain approach, which I think is what's interesting about TOA itself, which is we have we've really taken a very creative, completely outside the sort of the mainstream and out of the box approach to solving quite mundane problem, which is how do you manage people in the field more effectively with a view towards customer and customer experience and time and management of time and saving people time and really respecting people's time. And neither myself nor my co-founder, and this probably goes into the next question that you were going to ask, so maybe I should let you ask the question, but neither myself nor my co-founder really had a background in sort of operational research or logistics. We were both kind of software people and had a creative background. By the way, my co-founder is also a very kind of interesting left brain, right brain kind of guy. He was a classical musician before he went into software. He studied and played classical flute. And so we both come from, very interesting sort of artistic / analytical disciplines, and we brought that, both of us brought that into, and we're kind of different, and obviously I think we're quite different in our sort of in the sort of the strength that we have in each one of them. And he brings that, and I bring this. So yeah, we definitely both those sides absolutely informed the creation of TOA Technologies, and how we approach solving the problem of people waiting without knowing when a technician or service or delivery person will arrive at a customer's home.
Well, I mean, I think you just you have teed up on my next kind of question, and that's brilliant. I mean, because the area that you're operating in is that area. I mean, if it comes from a customer perspective, it's that, we've ordered something online, we're waiting for it to arrive. Particularly if it's something that's a big cycle thing, whether it's an installation of cable or telephone or internet, or it's a bed or a big appliance or something. Traditionally, we get given quite a broad time slot, and we're actually at the mercy of organizations and the logistical issues and problems, and we almost have to put our lives on hold in order to accommodate some of this. Sometimes it goes really well, sometimes it doesn't go well. I guess in the industry, we're talking about the last mile of the customer service space, really. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and sort of the implications? I mean, how does that play out in a sort of service and experience of space?
Well, first thing you hit, you were very precise in describing what we do. I mean, and the problem that we're trying to solve. We started out by really just trying to, solve the consumer problem on how to actually solve the problem of managing people in the field in general in a much more efficient and, I would say, just logical way. So,
right.
We started out with this idea that there's got to be a solution in a world where everyone's so connected, and we have so much computing power at our fingertips. Yeah. There's got to be a way to put the connectivity and the computing power together in such a way that sort of the mundane annoyance of waiting at home without knowing when a technician or service delivery person will arrive could be solved. I mean, we couldn't figure out why it is that people have to still wait at home for hours without knowing when a tech or a delivery person will arrive. So that was kind of the initial problem we tried to solve. I say that it's really a very simple consumer problem that everybody's experienced. Everybody in the United States for sure. And then when we started asking people and doing research, we realized almost everywhere in the world this problem exists. It doesn't matter where you are. Yeah. So that we realized was underlying a logistical and sort of and planning and operational problem that existed in the world of service and delivery, and that problem was really the problem of understanding what people are doing in the field and how long it's taking them to do stuff. And right. When before TOA showed up on the scene, most companies were planning the workday of a technician or a service person based on company averages, meaning
okay.
If there are 100 people, and between all of them, the average is 15 minutes to do a job. It didn't really matter that it took me 10 and you 20. They just assigned 15 minutes to the job, and of course that doesn't make much sense. The people are not averages, really. Averages are only good to kind of understand the sort of general context, but they're not. It's not good to actually plan the personal workday of each and every person working in the field. So, or any person. I always like to say that if we went by by averages, I mean, we'd all be wearing a medium. We'd all be wearing blue shirts. We'd all be wearing size 42 shoes or 10 shoes or whatever it is, and that's obviously not the case. So, the TOA started out with this idea that with computing and with connectivity, we could actually personalize the workday for each and every person working in the field by looking at how they work and really understanding what their pattern of work is. So our solution is completely unique in that it actually tracks how people do work, how an individual person does work throughout the day, really kind of doing what we call a real-time time and motion study really taking a timestamp for everything that people do, and through that timestamp, creating a performance pattern profile for each and every person working in the field, an individualized pattern profile for each and every person working in the field. So we actually have the system, our software, which is called ETA Direct,
Yeah.
has a performance pattern profile for each and every person working in the field, so that the system can actually analyze how long it takes you to do stuff, and then when that sort of job comes up again in the future, it can apply the time that it takes you to do it rather than me or Kaylee or somebody else. So that in effect,
Right.
instead of applying a company average to a job, we can be much more precise in allotting the time for that person to do that certain work that's a time that's specific to them, not to the company. And in that way, we can actually be much more precise in planning out their day. So that's the sort of the idea that you can measure by measuring everything that happens in the field, by creating performance pattern profiles, and by statistically analyzing those profiles, you can actually predict how long things are going to take in the future, and then use those predictions to better plan, better manage the day for each and every person working in the field, rather than by using company averages, and in that way kind of abusing the end customer, end consumer who's waiting for the delivery or the service.
Does that also allow kind of like, say, the person in the field or a central sort of monitoring unit to say, for example, the agent in the field is running behind for whatever reason, maybe it's traffic or an unforeseen problem at a stop before they get to the next customer? Does it allow you to then alert? Does the system alert you, and therefore you can proactively contact the next the upcoming customer to say, we're running 10 minutes late, or we're on our way, just so they put their mind at rest, as it were?
Right. I mean, the whole idea was really about bringing the customer into the loop of the appointment event and giving them information throughout the day. So, like I said, we really started with the idea of the consumer in mind, and because we ourselves were consumers, we weren't people from the logistics or operations area. We were really just consumers trying to solve a problem. In fact, my own experience, sitting at home and waiting for a cable person at that point really was the sort of the trigger for the idea. And so, yes, absolutely. The whole notion is that because we can predict with a high degree of accuracy when things will happen and how long they will take within the workday, we can actually notify people, the consumers, the customers, or the business that's waiting for the service of delivery, when that appointment is actually going to happen with a high degree of accuracy. We can actually estimate a 1 hour window throughout the day with about 98% accuracy. And that means that, using any form of communications, whether it's a tweet or a text or or voice or an automated voice call, or just allowing the customer to go online and track their service, we can actually give them a much more precise time of arrival. But that's where we got TOA's name. TOA stands for time of arrival, as I said before. So the idea is that that people will be much more informed and have a lot more information about the day. And like you said, if something's running behind, the system can automatically update the customer when the appointment's actually going to happen, rather than maybe when it was scheduled. And the other part of it is, of course, that we've built from that little core idea, sort of the core sort of solving the problem of people waiting without knowing. We've really built a whole end-to-end solution for managing mobile employees, and that starts from planning through fulfillment, all the way to communications and connectivity with the customer. And when I say planning, it means really helping the company plan things much better, and not just today's work, but next week's work, and sometimes next month's work, based on sort of looking at the company's patterns and the people's individual performance patterns. Our solution can much better help these companies much easier to really provide much better service and do it in a much easier way. The other aspect is in the fulfillment part, we have our central app is really mobile app, the app that people use in the field to get and do their work. So if you're a technician or service or delivery person, you are using ETA Direct, TOA's sort of central mobile app, to get and do your work with. so that you not only have, a great way of communicating with the back office, but really a very robust tool to allow you to, to see what you have to do and to look at all the information for the work. And like you said, update the system if you're running late or if you're stuck in a traffic jam.
Okay. I mean, there's two things that struck me kind of when you were talking then, and they are related to sort of almost like just ideas that I sort of talk about. And one is that particularly talking about this, that helping people sort of solve the issues that exist in the last mile of customer service. And one of the things I think I talk to people about is removing the grit from your customer experience. And what I mean by that is that I tell people a story. I say to them, I says, imagine if you're leaving the office to go to a meeting, and it's a couple of, it's a few hundred yards away or whatever, and you're going to walk there, but you leave the office and you notice that you've got a piece of grit in your shoe, but it's not, you're a bit pressed for time, and it's not bad enough for you to stop and take your shoe off and get rid of the grit and things. But then you just march on and you get to your meeting. The interesting thing about happens, and this is sort of a bit of a left brain, right brain thing, is what is the only thing that you remember about that journey going from point A to point B?
Oh, you remember taking the grit out?
Well, or actually you remember just the feeling of the grit as you walk, right?
Right.
And I guess what I mean by that is that, interestingly enough, when we talk about left brain and right brain, actually we remember sort of how we feel about things and our experiences rather than actually what actually happened.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the interesting things. I think that's one of the things that you're doing is you're trying to help companies take the grit out of the last mile in a way.
Absolutely, and I think that when we talk to customers and to users, we always say it's the only time that a customer will actually see somebody from your company at your door, and whether that experience is a good experience or a bad experience will actually set up the whole trajectory of the relationship with the customer.
Completely.
People will remember, 10 years, and I've had this because when we go into meetings and present this solution for the first time with prospective customers, there's always a moment where people kind of, even on the customer side, where people will get it and will say, yeah, absolutely, I remember the last time that somebody really gave me a bad experience, even if it was 10 years ago, especially when it relates to an experience in your home, which is really a very private place. I always say to our customers, this is the very intimate experience that happens when somebody goes to a customer's home. When you have a technician or a service or a delivery person go to a customer's home, usually it entails crossing the threshold and going into their house. And so we're talking about one of the most sort of what other stranger you're actually going to let in your house? This is the only stranger you're actually going to let in your house. So the experience is very intimate to start with. And, and I've been on truck rolls with customers, people in the field, and it's pretty quite amazing. I remember the last time I was on a truck roll, I was in Southern California visiting one of our customers in Orange County, and I was with the technician for most of that day, and I was really shocked at kind of in the realization, in the realization that we were walking into the homes of people who the only person in the house was a mother and her two babies, and in come these two big guys, with the equipment, me and the technician, and we're walking around their bedroom and walking in and out of their bathroom and doing something very, very, very intimate, and while it's also very exposed. So it's about removing the grit. You're absolutely right. It's about respect. First thing, it's about respecting the customer and their privacy and their time. Number one. Number two, it's about smoothing any interaction that leads up to that, which we call removing friction. We actually use that term internally. You're calling it grit. We say the beauty of this technology is that it can both automate the experience and personalize the experience at the same time. And that is all about removing friction. And like you said, it's that last mile of customer care that is a lot of times missing from the from the equation that really annoys the customer because they feel like that they're not being respected and they're in a way being taken advantage. They're definitely their time is being taken advantage of. And so the whole idea was to both respect the customer's time, give them a good picture of when things will happen and how long they're going to take, because it's not just about when things will happen. It's also giving people a sense of, well, traditionally, based on this technician's or this service person's performance, that event is probably going to take 35 minutes. So, so
Yeah.
it's not only that you're waiting for the technician or service or delivery person, it's also how long you're going to have to be in the house after that person arrives. Can help you better plan your day and gives you a better feeling that the company that's providing the service or the goods is really cares about you and your time. And it's simple because everything's done automatically in our system. It's not like somebody has to pick up the phone or call someone. The system will automatically deliver a text or a phone call to the customer based on that customer's preferences, whether they want to receive a text or a tweet or a phone call or they just want to go online and check their service like they check the delivery of a package. So those are the core ideas, and removing friction, like you said, was really the central tenet in really developing our application.
Fantastic. Now, I mean, and you must be doing really well because you've just been picked as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Field Service Management on October of this year. So, I mean, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
That must be quite an accolade.
It is. It's obviously I always say that in our world, definitely in the business technology world, Gartner's like the Oscars. It's like getting the Oscars. And when you're put in the leaders quadrant, it's not just a nomination, but you actually are the award recipient, and the Oscar goes to in this case it was Toa Technologies, and that really reflects a lot of the sort of innovative thinking that we've brought to this field, not just from the fact that we're the only true end-to-end enterprise cloud provider, meaning we were built completely in the cloud. From day one, the solution was designed to be, and used inside a browser, delivered from, our own private cloud, from our own data centers. It's a completely web-based tool, meaning there's absolutely nothing to install, nothing to, maintain or manage if you're a customer. We do it all for you, and in that respect, kind of align with all the great success stories of the cloud, like Salesforce.com, like Workday, like ServiceNow. So those are other companies that have built their solution 100% in the cloud. They called it 4 years ago. They called it SaaS. Before that, they called it web-based software.
Yeah.
Before that, they called it an ASP. But essentially, it's all the same thing, which is we design, develop, deliver, maintain, service our customers in a 100% cloud-based environment. None of our customers have it on site. None of our customers have to deal with the headache of managing an enterprise software solution and with all the different aspects that means. So we brought a lot of value to customers in that respect. So that's one big, I would say, reason why Gartner has named us the leader in the Magic Quadrant. The other reason is really for this unique approach that we brought to the table, which is this idea of learn, predict, and then use that to better manage people in the field, learning how people work and using performance patterns. So this whole idea of statistical analysis and the use of statistical analysis and predictive analytics in order to better manage the mobile employee, that's another aspect of of the uniqueness that we bring to the table. And lastly, I would say designing and developing a very robust HTML5 based mobility app, which is the central sort of application that people use in our application, and continuing to focus on better design and better usability. That is really a key component too, because the way I look at it, everybody's a customer here, not just the end customer, but also the person using the application in the field. They have to have the best, most advanced, easiest to use, most fun tool that they can have in order to basically provide that good customer experience. It shouldn't be for that person working in the field, an effort to use the application. It should align with all the sort of best and the brightest of mobile applications out there today. And we're all very aware of what's good mobile application, what a good mobile application feels like, because we're all using, these great smartphones that are, have completely changed our lives. So the experience of using a mobile app is something that every consumer knows, and every consumer and every technician and every service person and every maintenance person is also a consumer. So, A equals B equals C, A equals C. Everybody knows what it's like to have a great experience using a mobility app, and especially those people working in the field. And so we've really spent a lot of time, and we continue to spend a lot of time thinking about how to actually better design the user experience for our users so that they can in turn provide a better customer experience to their company's customers. It's really
so it sounds like to me that you've identified there's three, if you like, key either user groups or customer groups, however you want to look at it. There is the end customer who's taking delivery of something, and it's basically managing their experience and optimizing their experience. There is the people in the field, and however good the technology might be, if the user experience isn't good, then we've seen and probably heard numerous stories about people designing great technology, but it just doesn't get used because people just can't use it, regardless of its features or its capabilities. And then thirdly, there's the logistics manager, the operations kind of guy who is able to use the system because it helps him better predict and monitor and manage the overall performance based on individual sort of data. So it's like you've got this triumvirate of customers in a way, and you're almost keeping all three of them happy, which is well, all I can say is well done. That sounds fantastic.
Yes, and ultimately it does all. I mean, all this combines to the company's bottom line, because customer service is great, and we could talk about it all day long. But if it somehow doesn't positively impact the bottom line of the organizations that we serve, then it's a much harder sell. So the nice thing about what we've developed is an application that both looks at the customer experience, but also looks at efficiencies and saving our customers, our direct customers, not just their customers, but saving our customers time and money. So this is, I call that the holy grail, really, in business software. Ultimately, you want to provide a combination, both an enhanced and improved customer experience, while at the same time saving money for the service or the goods provider, and really creating much more efficiencies in their business, so that they can do whatever they want with that efficiency or that time that you save them. In our case, I think we measure a lot of our success based on how much additional time we can provide back to our customers. And I'll give you an example. For Virgin Media, which is a customer of ours in the UK, we provide our solution to Virgin Media, and what's happened is that because they've actually found much more efficient ways to manage their people based on our application, they've gotten back about 10 minutes for every appointment, and instead of cutting the appointment short, they're actually letting the technician or the engineer stay in the customer's home an extra 10 minutes if the customer so chooses, to basically help them better use the equipment, better use the applications that they provide on their set-top boxes, and et cetera, et cetera. So really to not rush through an appointment, but really provide a much more personal, much more sort of warm customer experience, because they don't have to rush to the next job. So this is a key sort of component. So that's something that company, Virgin, of course, a company that's very focused on customer service, has decided to do with the extra time that they've gotten back from the use of our application. Other companies decide, may want to add an extra job for the day or do whatever they want with the application. But ultimately, it's that holy grail which makes our application truly, truly viable and useful and valuable to the organizations that we serve.
Yeah, so effectively they're taking the efficiencies gained and then reinvesting it back into their customer care.
Right. Exactly.
Fantastic. So Well, that's brilliant. I mean, and I congratulate you on your success sort of today. I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to add before I ask you my final sort of two questions?
No, I think it's really an interesting place and time. I think where a lot of these technologies are converging. Whether you look at the sort of the mobile, the cloud, the social, sort of the focus on analytics, all those three: social, mobile, analytics, cloud. Those four really converging to transform not just the customer experience, which is obviously the ultimate goal, but really to transform the user experience and really help people do work better and really enjoy the job much more, and put technology to use to help people sort of better experience the work experience, not just the customer experience, the sort of the service or delivery event. And I think those two are, all those things are intertwined, and we're really in the middle of it, and it's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Now, what's TOA's and your plans? I mean, given that I noticed also that you raised a big round of funding in the middle of this year. So, what's your plans for what's little is left of this year and also next year? I mean, apart from world domination, of course.
Right. Well, the rest of the year we've got some more business to close, and that's really our main focus. But also looking at the next year is what the remainder of this year is a lot of that. A lot of the time is going to be spent really looking at what we want to do next year. And our goal continues to be to put our solution, our application in the hands of every single person doing work in the field. The interesting thing is that because we've developed a very sophisticated application for managing mobile employees, at this point, the kind of people who can use our applications are not just people who go to consumers' homes, but people who do any kind of work in the field. It doesn't really matter whether they're going to a customer's home, to a business, or even to an antenna. Whether they're doing scheduled and structured work or they're doing just work in the field. Our application can actually help those companies do manage their people better and help the people working in the field have a better experience. So our goal for the coming year and years is really to get to be the killer app in this domain, and really have every single person who is doing work in the field, you'd be using ETA Direct and a TOA app. Bill Gates used to say, that Microsoft's initial goal was to put a desktop computer on every desk, and our goal is to put ETA Direct into the hands of every single person who's doing work in the field. So that's, I would say, the sort of big picture, and that for us means both continued expansion geographically. We've focused a lot on Latin America in the last 2 years. We're refocusing on Europe and really looking to, as Europe sort of comes back economically, to make sure that mobile employees across Europe, doesn't matter where it is, have ETA Direct to do their work with. And then, to go beyond that, to expand into a whole variety of new industries. We've primarily been focused in the telecommunications industry and the retail and service industry. We're looking to expand into utilities, into home healthcare, and into other areas that where people are doing work in the field. Doesn't really matter to us whether they're going to a customer's home, to a patient's home, to a business, or even to an object. So that's kind of the plan, and we're going to use the rest of this year and the beginning of next year to really both plan that and execute on it throughout 2014. So that's the number one goal. Like you said, world domination. Even though I'm probably
finally, sorry,
I'm probably not allowed to say world domination, but it is. Ultimately, the goal is really to put an ETA Direct app into every person who needs it.
Fantastic. So finally, my final question that I always end these interviews on is this. Is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
Well, we just developed an app called Time Snap, that's kind of a fun app that we developed for Dreamforce. Last, a week ago, we were participating in Salesforce big annual event, which is
Yeah.
Dreamforce in San Francisco, where there were about 140,000 people attending, and to kind of do something fun, not just sell our own sort of core app, but to add sort of a fun element to what we do, which is focus on time and time management, and sort of the appreciation of time in people's lives. We developed a really fun app called Time Snap. You can find it on the App Store, and on iTunes.
Okay.
On iTunes,
Yeah.
and it's really the first global cloud-sourced clock, and it's
Okay.
it's really an application that people can snap pictures and have the exact time and location of the picture time stamped on the app, and then included in a sort of a clock so that the picture shows up in the exact time of day when it was snapped, almost like it's a part of a sort of a moving clock. So go to TimeSnap and check it out and see and add a picture to it if you'd like, and your picture will be included in kind of this global clock that we've created from people's pictures around the world that were snapped at a specific time in a specific place.
Well, that's brilliant. I mean, I love the way that you're combining design and sort of creative thinking to technology to solve a problem that I think all of us have experienced at some point in our lives. And I look forward to tracking your success kind of going forward. So, but thank you for sharing your time and your insights with us today. That's been brilliant.
Thank you very much. It was great talking to you.